Hi, Silvy. Welcome to the High Vibration Living Podcast.
Hello, hello. Nice to see you. I'm excited to be here.
Me too. And I'm really curious because I feel like you've been doing this for a really long time, and it's only become really popular to work with a relationship coach, work with a coach, identify your relationship patterns, the parts of you that you need to work on. But you've been in this game for a really long time. What have you seen change over the years when it comes to relationship relationship dynamics and people wanting to learn about who they are in the relationship and taking accountability for it?
Yeah, I mean, it's been 16 years for me. I've been in the therapy and coaching space, and I mean, there's been so many amazing shifts in the sense that social media is has its positive sides and its negative sides. And I think one of the most amazing things for me as a online creator and someone who is really standing for mental and relational wellness is just like people's openness to doing this kind of work and that self-exploration and destigmatizing therapy. So I think in that regard I've seen such a positive change of people's minds being expanded, and even therapy being cool. It's like, oh, it's this cool thing to do that work, right? um and I also think right now, kind of in this more recent season, there's a lot of that kind of hyper focus on the self development and personal skill set, but not so much the relationship skill set. And I think we have to be careful around, not just having our worldviews, our experiences validated, but also learning how to bridge ourselves with others as well, so that we can create connection and not just, live in a mountaintop as a monk on the top of a hill. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. And that's what I've been noticing a lot as well is we've all been spending a lot of time working on ourselves and working and evolving who we are physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, diving into our food habits and improving those, diving into our mental habits, improving those, diving into how we're showing up in the workplace or our career and improving that side of us. And then we go out into the world and socialize with people and no one can socialize. Everyone's awkward, they're struggling to carry a conversation. You see people physically get uncomfortable being around other people uh, because we've maybe spent too much time alone working on ourselves. What do you think's going on?
Um, I think that, we just came out of a really intense period of history that, and we're still kind of on the tail end of, which absolutely has impacted, with COVID, impacting people's mental health, their relationship. Like you said, that awkwardness is definitely present. But I
Yeah.
think, we're kind of shifting into understanding that, I think, like I was saying, relationships just require a different skill set. So, even sometimes I work with people who say to me this phrase, and I'm curious if you've heard people say this, like, I hate small talk, or, I just want to go deep really, really quickly. And there's almost like this desire to want to skip over that initial art of conversation, and those simple little acts of building trust with someone in those kind of more initial ways, to try to get to this deeper place. I work with a lot of clients who have anxious attachment, and so they want to get that commitment really fast. They want to, but we want to also help them assess, like, okay, does this initial development of the relationship, is this even what you want? Is this even something that is compatible for your nervous system? So I almost wonder also, Whitney, there's like this rush towards that intimacy without really always doing the work to cultivate that intimacy, which is that relationship skill set part.
Yeah. Or choose whether or not you even want that person. It's almost like you're just trying to get the trophy without deciding if you really even want that trophy. Does that make
Hmm.
sense? It's like people
Definitely.
are just trying to get the label and not necessarily being aware of who the person is that's in front of them.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And so I
For
work a lot. Yeah, go ahead.
No, no, please go ahead.
No, 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 I want to hear you. I feel like there was a juicy question coming in there.
I'm curious for your clients that are struggling to maintain that small talk and they just want to go deep and fast and find out if that person's really on their same wavelength on some more deeper and technical subjects, so to say. What are some ways that we can do small talk. What are some of the questions that you advise your clients to bring up on that coffee date or on that first casual date so they can get to know them, but still be able to kind of keep things light and just see if there's like a verbal and energetic flow?
Mm, great question. And I think, what would be helpful is we need to maybe talk about the attachment framing that I use with clients so that I can almost like contextualize this question. Are you familiar with attachment theory?
Yes, I think it's
You
really
are.
interesting. TikTok
Okay.
really does a great job of sharing that information, but it is fascinating because you can look back on the people that you know and you can really see their behavior and their attachment style, the connection.
Isn't that wild? Like you're like, oh, you fit this umbrella of relating or this way. So that's the framing that I like to use whenever like I'm on a podcast or answering questions because it really fills in a lot of the gaps as to why we relate the way we do, what might get in the way, and what skill sets we might want to lean towards practicing. So attachment theory essentially is a beautiful framework map created by John Bowlby, Mary Ainsworth, that essentially highlights how we originally attach to a primary caregiver and how it shows up in our adult relationships. If we had a really secure caregiver, really attuned, really present, really consistent, not all the time, even 30% of the time is actually recent research is showing that it's solid enough. We can create more loving, consistent, trusting, just feel more secure in relationships. If we had a caregiver that was much more inconsistent, maybe really present some of the time, really not present other times, we might develop more anxiety, a fear of abandonment, fear of, not being chosen fully. If we were somebody that was really neglected more emotionally and not really attuned at all, we might develop more relational avoidance tendency. And you see this getting mirrored in adult relationships. So
Yes.
let's use this frame to set up that question you just asked. What might be some of the challenges somebody might have? So somebody that has more anxious patterning is going to actually want to go really deep, really, really fast. I want to lock it in. I want to make sure you see all of me and you choose me. I don't want to, play games. I want to know, is this it? I can't tolerate that initial anxiety that new relationships might come up with. Whereas somebody with more avoidant leaning patterns, like, I'm not going there. I don't want to ever be vulnerable. I don't want to ever share about myself. So they might actually dance along the lines of they might love that small talk and not ever really get to the deeper stuff. So that's an interesting frame that I think it's helpful to know about ourselves if we feel connected, if we feel like we're ever even able to make the transition to a more intimate connection. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. What are your
So
thoughts? I'm curious about the attachment patterning. What have you kind of used in your own psyche and dynamics, if you want to
it's
share?
interesting because I haven't had the opportunity to go into it deeper because in the last 15 years of dating, I haven't met men that want to go past surface level dates. I have found in my experience that they all run away from the idea of actually being in a relationship. They want they want to be entertained and they want the company when they want it at their convenience. But it's been interesting for me for the time that I'm living in. I think it's very true for my age group and depending on where you live in the country versus like when I was in college and I lived in the South, people were more focused on relationships and family. And I just saw a lot of people, men and women, just looking for a partner and choosing a partner because it's time to get married and have kids. Um, and then being from California and living out in California, but and spending time in New York as well, um, people are almost looking for like the perfect partner. And so, but also scared of actually committing. So you just, nothing ever gets, everything's very shallow and then it disappears. Shallow and it
Mm,
disappears. So I've read about attachment theory because I find it fascinating and I just personally want to know who I am and how I can show up better in relationships because I'm like many of your clients. I've been working on myself for the past,
yes.
10, 15 years. And part of that is because I have my own business. So like you have to face all your internal fears and insecurities in business But then I want a partner in life. So I've been working on figuring out, okay, what are the parts of me that I need to evolve in order to show up better in a relationship? But then, there's no one to
Yes.
practice with.
I totally hear you in the different places, locations. There's a vibe. I mean, I'm a Los Angeles girl, so I'm constantly working with people in the LA area. And when I was living in Texas, Austin, it's just there's a different energetic climate. So I know exactly what you're referring to. Yeah.
And I went to college in Dallas, Texas, and I love Texas. And I love, um, I would say like the vibe in regards to family and relationships in Texas. It's
Yes.
really beautiful
Yes.
and in the South, and it's very different here. But obviously, like, I've had a lot of friends in our 20s and 30s that when I asked why they were choosing to be with that partner, why they were getting engaged to that person, why they were going to marry them, they would say, well, they're going to be a great father. They're going to be a great provider. It wasn't love. It wasn't compatibility. It wasn't that's who I want to experience life with. But that's
Yes.
okay for them. We all
Yeah.
have different specifications of what we're looking for in the person that we share our life with. Um, like
And
I'm
I
looking
and
for
yeah.
like a partner for life, like who wants to be my forever play date. But also
Mm.
be, a husband and a provider and a father. So I think it just depends on what we're looking for, but maybe our challenge, I'm curious what you've seen when it comes to people who are in LA and New York who are more type A people, right? We're more
Mhm.
career driven people. Are many of us stuck in looking for more than maybe are our expectations too high for what we want?
You just said so many important things, and I want to highlight them in the frames that I use with clients. So I work with right now. I'm working with primarily women, type A women, executive women who are boss babes that are looking to find their person, and there. Oh gosh, there's so many juicy things. So the first thing I want to say is the attachment system is really beautiful because it ultimately we're looking for who can I create a secure functioning relationship with, not who shows up as a perfect ready to go person, but who's willing, who wants to co-create, who is on board, who is vulnerable, and how can we dance? Are we open to dancing together? The other piece you just said, which is really important, is what is my relationship vision? So that's the first thing I do with clients is I help them really define that because that informs so much. And one thing I've noticed in places like New York and Los Angeles, there's such an abundance of choice and opportunity, and people are just kind of like looking over their shoulder, like, oh, where's the next best thing? And I think there's this psychological um, experience that's happening for people that's why it's so important to get really clear on what that vision is, what our personal red flags are, what are the kinds of people I tend to be drawn to that are familiar but that are not really good for my nervous system. So we start from that base, which then helps us move towards, okay, am I relating to people in a securely attached way? Am I leaning in? Am I being vulnerable? Am I being open? Am I creating agreements to see if this is going to move forward? And if this is not going to move forward towards that vision, well, then, yeah, it's definitely time to opt out. And there's a lot of people in the dating pool that are relationally avoidant or have not learned those relationship skill sets that we were talking about,
What
right?
what do we need to read or what quiz do we need to take to figure out our attachment style?
Yeah, well, I'm coming up with one soon, so stay tuned. I would say Attached is a really great book. I have an attachment 101 course that actually digs into the all the different frames. And what I usually say is beyond quizzes, beyond books, think about what your relational experiences tend to feel like more in your romantic relationships. When things start to get deep or intimate, are you somebody that experiences more fears around abandonment, feeling like you're not going to be chosen, feeling like you're going to be not attuned to emotionally? Or are you somebody that tends to feel more like suffocated, overwhelmed, enmeshed, and wants to like run away from intimacy, even though there's nothing dangerous happening? You just feel all of those early childhood attachment wounds start to arise after the honeymoon phase. That's why the map can be so helpful, Whitney, because if we're not aware, we can start to kind of act out in these ways that sabotages the relationship or doesn't even give the relationship a chance to start, really, to take that foundational first step, right?
Mhm.
So Attached is a really great book that I recommend if anyone's like very new to it, to attachment work.
So you said majority of your clients are women. When men come to you, what's the support that men are looking for?
What are the support that men are looking for? So I've worked with men more so in the therapeutic dynamic. So I work with them more in mental health challenges, but I have worked with a handful around relational skills. And they're very different for each person. It might be learning how to be more vulnerable. A lot of times I work with men who might be the nice guy archetype, who are don't really have they don't know how to speak up. And I think that's kind of a challenge that men are having in this kind of modern era where, there's a lot of frames around a man should just take it all, accept whatever the woman comes to him, her explosion, her anger, and there's almost like this expectation that men are just supposed to be like this stoic rock figure, and it's actually a lot of times it can be violating of his boundaries. So I help men still be a present, attuned partner in heterosexual relationships, and of course if it's in a same-sex relationships, there's just different skill sets they want support with. So whether it's assertiveness, how to be more vulnerable, how to stand up for themselves in a way that's firm but still loving. What are some of the other things that men come to me for? A lot of people come to me about just like, I think people are confused about what's normal, what's healthy, because there's so much stuff on social media, Whitney, and I don't know if you experience this, but it's confusing. This is what
Yeah.
it is to be a high value person or a high value
Oh,
woman.
yeah. I
It's
think it's a lot of
exhausting.
shaming. I think it's a
Yes.
lot of this is
Yes.
what's wrong with you and why you don't have what you want. And for me, I'm finding I have to really start to limit my time on social media because it's not leaving me feeling good, and it's just creating clutter in my brain, which then trickles down into my body, and it's not adding to my life, it's taking away. Um, so it's like you have to get on and get out. And it's not
Yes.
about even curating an algorithm for you anymore, because it can kind of creep in everywhere. But there's just a lot of shaming and in regards to age, how you look, choices you made in your life, how you're showing up every day. It's exhausting, and I know a lot of people are probably experiencing this even when they're just going on dates. You just want to have a light conversation and see if there's a connection there and if there's a flow. And if you go too deep too fast, you can make a lot of snap judgments about people and where they are in their life and the choices that they've made.
Well said. Absolutely. And one of the tools I like to give my clients around their social media usage when it comes to relational content is, if something is being presented in a black and white way, it's probably not going to be good for you. So really intentionally seeking out content that is more nuanced, that really is inviting you to kind of come up with your own ideas around something or what is going to feel good for you, because we're living in a season where so much experimentation is happening, so many different relationship structures, and people are, getting that permission to really find their own way, which can be confusing. So I can understand that desire to find a formula that tells you how to be. And what I say instead is seek to create a solid relationship skill set. Look for someone who also values that. What do I mean by that, Whitney? Somebody who's flexible, somebody who's collaborative, somebody who cares about your needs as much as their needs, somebody who is influenceable. And I'm talking to us and them. It's not just looking for it out there. These are things that allow you to bridge. Somebody who can tolerate multiple perspectives. Kindness is probably the most important quality to look for in a person, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting how we look for someone that's charming, interesting, and these things that actually they're not really relational qualities at all. They don't necessarily make someone a good partner. Does that land? Does that make sense?
Yes, and you brought up 2 points that I find and other people I talk to are really looking for. Number 1, kindness. whether it's me or my male friends, we're all looking for someone who's kind, especially in this day and age, who can be kind to us and kind to others. And two is that open-mindedness and flexibility. And I reference often my parents and their friends, they're in their 70s, and my parents' group of friends talk about how they missed the time where you could talk about all different political views, all different points of view, and you can just talk about it so you can learn and gain perspective. And then you can walk away with your own final, thoughts and views on it. But we can all sit at a table and talk about all these different points of view and not judge or hate others. And I think that's what a lot of us, I think, are looking for in relationships. We would like to be able to talk about all different topics and learn with each other, and not be written off because of an experience we had or a point of view that we had.
Absolutely. Well, that piece about my husband and I, we just did a conference in Canada in April, with some of the most lovely relationship experts in the field right now. And we did the keynote talk on navigating differences to create connection.
Mm.
And when we really think about it, Whitney, even when you bring two people that are from the same culture, same religion, same value system, they're still going to have so many differences. In fact, Gottman research shows that 69% of couples conflict, you're going to be blown away by this one if you haven't heard it, it's unresolvable. 69% of couples conflict. It's so freeing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to see eye to eye on this. We're going to have your life is going to be shaped in such a different way than this person's life. And I think what you're pointing to more of the intellectual kind of willingness to accept that difference. And it's vital. It doesn't mean that, there might be certain values that are essential to have alignment around. And I do work with my clients around, sometimes I work with clients that are, advocates for certain things, and they really believe in equality, and they want their partner to share, be in service in the world in the same way. That's also part of the relationship vision. But beyond that, there's still going to be differences in the coloring, in the flavoring, in the way that plays out, and how they communicate all those things, right?
So you go with your husband to conferences all over the US and Canada. You meet with different relationship experts. What have you been learning from some of the people that you've met in your field recently?
What have I learned from other people in my field recently? Well, this last conference I did was with Dr. Ramani, who is the expert on narcissism. Yeah, she's phenomenal. For anyone listening that has been in a narcissistic relationship, or just toxic dynamics, she's a phenomenal person to. She just released a book called I think it's called "It's Not Me," which is such a perfect title. It's actually you. It's actually not me. It's you. And she talks about how a lot of we think a lot of our traumas and our difficult relational experiences tend to happen in childhood, and a lot of her research actually shows that so much of it actually can happen in like our middle school years, when we're still young and forming our identity. So that was an interesting kind of new. I've thought about that before in previous work that I've done, but it kind of more solidified to really make sure we're focusing on not just childhood when we're exploring ourself and who we are and what might be actually getting in the way of connection, but also some of those younger experiences we've had in relationships can really play a role in kind of shaping the lens that we have on to how we see other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She was great.
Do your clients ever come to you and say, I want to improve my relationships with, someone I'm in a romantic relationship with, but I also want to improve my relationship with people I work with? Do you get that
Yes.
very often, that people are focused on improving their work relationships? Or has that kind of gone out the window now that most people aren't working in offices?
It definitely comes up a lot. I would say I work with people in the friendship domain a lot, and within work, I work with people in the boundaries and assertiveness domain. So boundaries and work is a conversation that comes up a lot around how to take care of oneself, how to prevent burnout, just how to advocate for oneself. Work is, boundaries in a romantic relationship is one thing and friendship is one thing, but in a work environment, it's tricky because there's different power dynamics there. This is our financial living. And so it's a little bit more of a nuanced process, but absolutely. I mean, I help people with communication, languaging. I mean, I don't know about you, Whitney, but I did not grow up learning the emotional vocabulary that I have now after 16 years of my own therapy. Um, it's a whole world to be able to understand what's happening inside of us, how to communicate it, and how to communicate it in a relationally sensitive way, and then take in the feedback of the other person, adjust as needed. I mean, it's such a beautiful, I feel so lucky that I get to teach people all these things that I also struggled with for so much of my life, you know?
Is there a consistent pattern of one, two, or three things that you end up teaching all of your clients?
That's a great question. Boundaries is very prevalent. How do I communicate what's a no without pushing the other person away? How to express my needs. I work with a lot of clients that have strong anxious patterns that fear of abandonment can be so strong. They want the relationship. They don't want to lose the person, but they end up really self-abandoning and then feeling really resentful after a while and sometimes leaving the relationship because they feel like there's no space for me here, but they were never really direct and clear about their needs in the first place.
Yeah.
So needs, boundaries, and also hurt feelings. How do I express what's bothering me? Right? Huge with friends, with romantic partners, with somebody that is new that I'm dating, and I say to people, the sooner you can start bringing these things up, actually, the better, as long as you are doing it in a way where you're taking responsibility. And also, another distinction I was talking about with my husband last night is we have to be careful who we go to therapy and coaching with. What do I mean by that? Is we don't want to go to someone who is only validating our experience
Yeah.
and just, you're right. You're everything, just kind of like helping us to understand ourselves. We have to be careful that we are also using sessions and that self-discoverment, this development work in a way that helps us understand the people in our lives better too. If we want to maintain connection with people, right? So not always making everyone the bad guy, but like, hey, they have their own vulnerabilities too, right? They have their own sensitivities. How can I be more mindful, curious, thoughtful about theirs while I'm still being honest about what's coming up for me? So that dance is where I really emphasize, whether it's work, friendship, romantic relationships, early dating experiences.
Yeah, and that's always the challenge, right? It's like when you're growing up in school, anyone can go to school, get a license, and become a teacher. Doesn't mean they're necessarily a good teacher. We all had those teachers that we loved and those classes that we, dreaded going to. How do we choose a licensed marriage and family therapist or a coach that's actually going to help us evolve and not just, kind of give us the green light and tell us, yes, everything you're saying is valid.
Really great question. And, the connection with the person you work with is very important. And I think you have to really, whoever is listening, we have to think about like, what is our primary intention? If we're navigating a mental health challenge, that's going to be very focused on our experience. Some mental health challenges have a relational component to it, right? So if I'm working with someone who's struggling with depression, for example, right? They might go through periods that they're very internal, they're isolating, they're really in the thick of it, right? So even teaching them a relational skill, something as simple as just sending a text to their close friends, hey, I just want you to know I'm in it. I'm really in my cocoon. I love you, but I just want you to know I'm here. I'm just really struggling right now. So that tether to the other in these micro ways that really allows us to be nurturing the relational connections we have. So it manifests very differently based on different mental health challenges. And it's something to be aware of if you have the result where you're not feeling connected to people and you're doing work and you're still not feeling connected, there might be an additional relational component that needs to be worked on, whether it's more vulnerability from your end, more flexibility, maybe your expectations are too high. So asking that person, can you help me be more of a bridge so that I can have more connection? I don't want to just have the focus just be on me, where, so looking at the result and if you're feeling connected in the ways you're hoping for
What's
are
the
some of
age
the
range of
things.
people that you work with?
What is the age range? Currently, I would say, gosh, I mean, I've worked with the whole age spectrum, but right now I'm really focusing on women who are dating. And there's no limit. I mean, as long as they're above 18 years old. But primarily, I'm working with women that are really established in their careers and they want to really implement more relational skills so that they can get clear about what they're looking for and find their person. The other thing I will say about that is sometimes the roles we play at work get in the way of that relationship skill set. I'm a therapist. You can imagine I can analyze things till I'm blue in the face. I can attune to someone else really well, but I also have to bring my own vulnerability. I have to be mindful that I'm not always tuning outward. So that's where my therapist role had to be integrated so that I can create reciprocal, vulnerable relationships. Somebody that's a lawyer is always trying to prove their case, their argument. You can imagine relationally that doesn't always go so great for them, right? So that's also something I work with a lot with my female clients around how to shift roles so that they're experiencing more connection as well. So the whole age spectrum, as long as they're above 18 years old.
If you were to go to a high school and give a lecture to a group of teenagers in high school, a group of women or young ladies, and give them a few pieces of advice that they could take into their relationships as young adults and into the workplace, what would you want them to know so they can make sure that when they go off to college and when they're in their 20s, they are in healthy relationships, not in toxic relationships that are going to create more challenges them later in life?
Yeah, big question. What would I say? Let's see. If somebody is in that, kind of self-development exploration early and maybe they have parents that have really helped them have this beautiful, expansive emotional vocabulary, they might feel lonely in that, because there might not be a lot of other people that are also speaking, communicating in that way, so I would hopefully encourage them to be patient, that those people are coming. They might be, maybe a chapter or two away, but to keep practicing and modeling those skills, to be honest and can try to connect to the things that you value that are important to you, and to try to really take a stand for those things, but in ways that are also, again, like bridging with other people. And sometimes we might put something on the table that the other person is not ready for, or they don't know how to meet us. It doesn't mean that they can't meet us in a future chapter. It doesn't mean that I used to feel like I need to be validated in what I'm saying in this moment. It has to happen now.
Yeah.
I feel like we all learn lessons in life at different stages. And if we can kind of cultivate that openness and tolerance, still be who we are, and trust that whoever also matches that desire, I think that's the biggest thing. They value those same things. Not everyone values depth, Whitney, and I know you know that. You said that on those dates. A lot of people don't value this kind of depth. They don't.
Yeah.
And that can feel lonely, the air gets thinner up there when we're doing this deeper work. But there are people that do really value this depth too, right?
So how do you unplug after work? You're a coach, you have really deep conversations all day long. How do you take off your headphones? How do you take off, put down your pen and relax and allow yourself just to enjoy yourself, enjoy your husband, enjoy your life? How do you disconnect from the work?
I disconnect from my work. I'm 16 years in, so for me, I feel like it's been integrated in who I am so much now. in the beginning, it was a lot harder. Like it was harder to de-roll. So much would get activated in me that I would have to move through. Um, but I'm a pretty simple man. I'm a simple girl. I love watching TV shows. I'm watching Handmaid's Tale, really beautiful stories that help me immerse in kind of like my own fantasy land. I have a golden retriever, so she really helps me get back into my playful energy. What else do I like to? I'm a big gym person, so I love weight training. Oh my gosh, that deep pressure just helps me regulate and get in my body. I'm also a big foodie, so I want to hear about all the yummy food that you're making. I love high protein meals. So just like really emphasizing things that are actually not mentally related, more body, food. And I have some amazing friends that are very deep that we can, work through stuff together and also just keep things light and fun and be silly and ridiculous. I'm such a goofball behind closed doors. My husband's like, I need to showcase this side of you, Sylvie. And one day we might have a series on the ridiculous adventures of me, but for now it's behind the scenes.
Well, then I would love to know what type of food do you love to have on a date, and what type of food do you always recommend that your clients kind of engage in when they go on a first or second date?
Wow, well, I've never actually suggested food for my clients to go on a date, but that's a really interesting suggestion. I'm high protein person. I have generalized anxiety disorders, so for me, protein just does wonders for my psyche and my brain. It helps me so much with my regulation. But I don't really go into like what food choices people eat. It doesn't really come up, to be honest, in conversation, but I imagine light finger foods for the first date. But also just like be you. You want to order that burger? Be you. The more we can just like be ourselves in those early phases without obviously being transparent about our deepest, darkest wounds, the more we're going to really get people that are going to choose us for us. The more we mask, the more we're going to, you know, uh, have someone choose us for someone that's not us. Authenticity is a huge important piece of the dating process. So I want to know more about the amazing foods that you make for people that I'm just now so excited to learn about.
Yeah, I mean, my cooking is obviously more health supportive. I think you can take any indulgent meal and just upgrade the quality of ingredients, because food should be delicious and pleasurable, but it should make you feel good. And I think we all know as women, like there's nothing worse than going on a date and having anxiety about the food that you're going to eat and how it's going to make you feel afterwards, and how it's going to affect your ability to continue to hang out with that person, because you know that food's going to give you an upset stomach, or it's going to make you feel bloated, or it's going to make you be swollen when you wake up in the morning.
Yes,
And so
that's
you separate
amazing.
yourself from being in the moment and having the experience with that person to this issue with food.
Mm,
And so, what I try to do with my clients and with my podcast is help people kind of get in control and understand what works for their body. And then, very much in line with what you do, it's like we have to learn to communicate that that's not the type of restaurant that I can eat at for this reason, and be okay with that. Or, when you sit down at a restaurant with the person that you're on a date with, be comfortable enough to ask those questions to the waiter about the menu, because you need to know about the food so you can make a choice that's going to make you feel good. And I think oftentimes as women, we don't want to make a fuss, because we don't want to seem difficult, because we don't want the person to not like us. And like now there's all this social media rhetoric around, oh, don't go on a date with a girl who asks about seed oils, or that asks about, an ingredient on the menu, or wants the salad dressing on the side. They're difficult. Um, so,
I
you
think
know,
this is such a cool aspect of the dating conversation that I have never explored. So thank you
right?
for bringing this to my attention. It's
Yeah,
wonderful.
because it's that's why I love a coffee date, because like you can just order a cup of coffee or an espresso. But then, what if you have a particular coffee order that you really like, and you're at a coffee shop that doesn't understand that type of order? I've had this happen. And so now you're dealing, now you're not trying to be difficult. Like every other coffee shop seems to be able to make this for me, but this shop's like, it's just not registering with the barista. And now you're the difficult one. And, you think, shoot, not even going to be able to get to know this person because of my coffee order.
I think this is what's so great about this. It again highlights, do I get to be who I am in this relationship? Is there going to be space for me here? And what a beautiful, perfect setup from the beginning that highlights. It's almost like it removes people that don't either make space for it, and also for, one of the things that comes up a lot with my clients is the value of health. Maybe somebody who, values health is going to be much more aligned with this way of being in the world, and that's something that you share as a core relational value, versus someone that's just going to look at you with the side eye, that's going to make you feel judged, is not going to feel good. So I think
Yeah.
it's a really brilliant strategy to bring on to a first date, actually.
You just changed the whole way I looked at it, because before it was making me feel insecure, and it was making me feel, I mean, just all things negative. Um, and I was really struggling with it. And now you've just completely flipped the script. And I see like the value of just showing up and being me with my coffee order or my food order, or asking the questions that I want. Because if the person doesn't get while I'm doing this, they really aren't someone that can be with me long term.
Yeah, I mean, this is part of you. This is what you do for work. It's infused in your whole ecosystem, So it's like, for me, when I met my husband, we're so about relational and mental health. We went deep really fast. And for the average person, that would have been like, oh, I listened to like a 6-minute bird song that he played for me, and I was like mesmerized. And he's like, nobody would listen to this. And so we don't know who is going to be drawn to those endearing qualities about us when we don't present them. And I just think it's such a great example that you brought up, that so many people are probably relating to in a different flavor, or somebody that maybe doesn't want to talk about religion, but that is such a part of who they are. And actually the other person is relieved. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm so relieved that you talked about this, because I, believe all of these things too. So it's also a filter system. And, we can use these moments. If we know it's going to be a potentially socially awkward moment, if we feel like, oh, this is something this person might get awkward around, we can just call it out, like, oops, there was my, little order. And I'm curious, is there anything that you tend to feel a little uncomfortable around when you're out and about it with a new person? Like, we can use it as a beautiful opportunity, actually, to bridge connection.
Yeah. And then we can also use it to take a look at where we're still judging ourselves, and then
Yes.
find a coach
Beautiful.
to help us let that go. Because that's what I've just realized. Like if I go to a restaurant and I'm asking the waiter, is there soy in this? Simply because like I'm highly allergic to soy. Depending on who I'm on a date with, I'm scared to ask that question because I don't want to be seen as difficult, but I'm not difficult. That's a
Or
judge.
the person that's sitting in front of you might be like, wow, this girl I love how assertive she is and how she takes care of herself. She's going to take care of me.
Ooh, this is great. Way to flip it.
Or she can speak out her needs. I'm so afraid to speak out my needs. She's going to make it more comfortable for me to speak up about what I want.
These are all great points that I never thought about. Thank you. Because there's so much
So welcome.
food fear when it comes to
Yeah.
dating. You know, there's like, it's more than just showing up on that first date in a restaurant and how you look and walking in and sitting down and small talk. It's so many other little mannerisms.
It's that awkward initial period that I like to say that we're all guarded on the first few dates. We're all still masking, even if we're being quote unquote authentic. There's a mask. I mean, you're supposed to have a mask. This person is a stranger. We're trying to impress a stranger. It's the whole concept it's an odd thing, So, and the more we can just embrace that as part of it, the muscle gets stronger over time. But man, do I wish I could watch you on your next date, Whitney, just owning that food order and that coffee order, and just like have my little glasses towards the other guy. Like, you better be admiring the crap out of this right now.
I will change my perspective of it for sure after this. And
So glad.
just think of it as I'm a really good orderer. And how lucky is this
Mm.
person to know that I
Woo!
can dissect a menu and understand the ingredients that are in each dish beyond what's explained on the menu. And what a blessing it is
Yeah.
that he gets to share this table with me.
Oh my God. If I was on a date with you, I would have been like, please order for me because I just want to eat, try everything you're going to pick. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm excited for you to try on this new frame and to see how it feels and how the response is on the other side, and regardless of how they respond, but just for you to really own this part of you that's such a tentacle of this ecosystem that you value as a wonderful chef in the world. That's really
Well, I
exciting.
love that we talked about this because I never saw dating coaches as an opportunity to share with somebody all your points of view of what you're experiencing on one side of the table, and they can help flip it. And it can
Yes.
get you out of the mindset that's keeping you stuck in the same place.
That reframe is one of the most important things that I do with clients.
Yeah.
Because we can look at something through the lens of, like you said, that self-judgment or shame, or if we were criticized a lot as a kid, and if we can look at it even in a neutral frame, but a positive frame, oh, it can make the world of difference for sure.
Yeah, huge.
Absolutely.
Well, if people want to work with you, what are the different ways they can work with you and how do they get in touch with you?
I would say right now, my biggest primary focus is working with women that are very career driven and are wanting to find their person, and they can explore that on my website. So if they click on coaching, you'll see all the info about what it looks like, pricing, and everything. So you can just set up a free consultation with me, and we see if we're a good fit.
Perfect. And are there any books that you recommend or you really like that your clients to come to you having already read?
Hmm. Absolutely none. No, because I'm such an educational based coach that I bring that to our sessions. And I have a lot of online courses that like comes with sessions that I do that is very educational. But if someone wants something, I mean, Attached is a really great, simple, great first step reading when it comes to learning about the attachment framework. And who else? Nawal Tawab has a really great boundaries book. I'm forgetting the name, but it's a really good one. And yeah, I have tons of online courses. I have one on boundaries, attachment. If anyone's interested, I can also share those as well.
And could you leave the listener with maybe one last relationship or love tip that they can consider adding into their life?
I would say do your best to try to integrate the self with the other, the really implementing the personal development work that you're doing in a way that really allows you to create that connection that you're wanting, and to just to always know that they're always standing side by side with each other. Neither is a solo experience that happens on its own. So that's what I would say.
Well, thank you so much for your insights today. You know, number one, I think everyone's going to walk away feeling more confident about what they're going to order on their first or second.
Yes.
Uh, so thank you so much for sharing your insights, and it's a pleasure to connect with you.
Oh, my pleasure, Whitney. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.